Hello everybody from Plant Reviews. Today is the 29th of January and I'm talking today about one of the most beautiful Cattleyas you can find on the market, and it is Cattleya trianae. This is actually a hybrid between two forms of trianae. I can't really show you very well the label. It is a Cattleya trianae concolor done cross Binot that I bought from Elsner Orchids about 4 years ago. I was thinking that this plant would have been a concolor. In Cattleya trianae concolor, basically it's an overall like shell pink flower with a yellow with the yellow inner part of the lip, but even the label, this part of the label is shell pink. However, this one looks more like a typical Cattleya trianae color with this pink pink color overall on the flower, and the very intense magenta lip, the terminal part of the lip, with this yellow area in the inner part of the flower, and inside is kind of whitish. This plant is one of the most famous species of Cattleya for hybridizing because of the shape of the flower. It is actually also quite big, not as big as Cattleya warshevicii, but I would say about 10 centimeters across. Also, this is the first blooming of this plant. I bought it in 2016, and this is the first blooming at home, and I think that maybe would have needed more light. You can see the leaves are not very big, and the pseudobulbs are quite short actually. This is the biggest pseudobulb that the plant produced before flowering. However, this plant I found doesn't like too much light because tends to burn quite easily. Unlike Cattleya warshevicii and Rincolella gibbiana, they have a south-facing window here in England, United Kingdom, and it is they are really doing well. It's south-facing. Never seen any burns on their leaves. This orchid tend instead to get sometimes burns, so I decided to keep it in an eastern windowsill, and I am really pleased that this year finally this plant bloom with a color that I didn't expect, but I would say is still incredibly beautiful. And the shape of the flower, you can see it is absolutely amazing. As a species, this species is the flower, the national flower of Colombia. That indeed this species lives only in Colombia, as far as I know. And even if in Colombia there is another beautiful Cattleya warshevicii, that has even bigger flowers, maybe the shape is not as perfect as this one. Mr. Chadwick indeed. There is an authority in Cattleyas, in orchid in general, but in Cattleyas in particular, also loves, like me, the warshevicii, but about the shape also says that Cattleya trianae really is the most perfect shape among orchid species, and is actually better than also many hybrids for shape. Well, I absolutely agree with him. The shape of this plant of the flower is really nice. But I'll get back to the shape later. I'll talk about a little bit of history first of this species. This species, as I said, is an orchid endemic to Colombia. The genus name Cattleya is dedicated to William Cattleya, who was an horticulturalist who obtained a specimen from William Swainson, who discovered in Brazil a new orchid. and this bloomed at William Cattley's under William Cattley's care, and this then was described as the first new orchid of the genus Cattleya. Was described by Lindley, a botanist, as Cattleya labiata. Labiata means with lip, I think, and well, obviously because of one of the I would say the signature characteristics of this type of orchid is the amazing lip that all these species of Cattleya have, and most of the time is of a different color than the rest of the flower, and this really makes this genus of orchid really sought after by orchid collectors, and indeed for me, these are the orchids that I love the most, and probably these are the plants I love the most. The Lindley, in addition to having described Cattleya labiata, later described other species in the genus Cattleya, and also actually Lindley got some specimens also of a species that would have been later described as Cattleya trianae, but he actually never described these specimens as a different species. To describe these new species, we have to wait later when a botanist from Colombia, indeed, Triana, I think Jose Triana, Jose Triana, probably this is the correct pronunciation, in one of his basically at one of the contacts in Europe that was one of the most famous orchid growers in Europe back then, Jean-Jules Linden, and he had also a really good orchid growing business and selling. Well, Jose Triana sent quite a few plants of this new orchid, and that was also very famous because these plants were also, they came in a range of colors, of flower colors, incredible, never seen before in any other species of Cattleya. And Jean-Jules Linden obviously was very happy to have had all these new orchids with this wide variety of colors, and he started selling a lot of these orchids, and asked to his friend Reichenbach, who is a botanist, who was a botanist, to describe the new species, and this new species was described as Cattleya trianae in honor of the Colombian botanist, thanks to whom this species became so famous in Europe. Sometimes you will find this plant called Cattleya trianae. Indeed, actually, as you can see in my here, is actually written as Cattleya trianae, but actually trianae would refer if Triana was actually the surname of a woman, being Triana a man. The correct, really, Latin name is Trianae. Also, Mr. Chadwick points this out, that the real name of this orchid is actually Cattleya trianae and not Trianae. Anyway, you can find this species sold both as Trianae and Trianae, and this obviously doesn't affect the beauty or the quality of the flower. About this plant, you can see this is actually a pretty big orchid, and actually it is probably the orchid that grows faster in my collection, even if really it doesn't bloom that much in comparison to others, produces pseudobulbs and leaves like crazy. Indeed, one my plant that I bought 4 years ago actually has I had to divide it last year because it became too big for the pot. However, this is the only division that bloomed, and I am showing. In my opinion, this is probably one of the easiest Cattleya species to care for, but can be a bit finicky about blooming. Maybe if I had better lightning, maybe for example if I was in southern Europe, but still exposing this orchid in an east facing windowsill, I would have had a blooming earlier than 4 years. However, I am absolutely pleased with the result. You can see the pseudobulb are actually quite grooved. I have still they're still in their sheet. However, you can probably see here these the ribs of the pseudobulb. Actually, mini Cattleya has these ribs. I think I say actually too many times. For example, Cattleya varieties is very ribbed. Some other instead they have pseudobulbs quite smooth. This new pseudobulb also is kind of smooth, I would say. But you can still see the ribs. The flower is about 10 centimeters across, probably, yeah, you can see in comparison to my hand, and obviously they can be bigger plants, more established plants, and in better liked condition, then I have probably bloom with bigger flowers. You can see the quite narrow tepals of the orchid and these two huge petals. The petals in Cattleya trianae are some of the biggest among the genus. Usually, most of the time, in other Cattleyas, the petals are not really that much bigger than the three tepals. But in Cattleya trianae, you can really see the difference, and this is the reason also why Cattleya trianae has been used so much in hybridizing, because the offspring often gets these really big petals and makes the shape of the flower a lot rounder. That is like a trend that Cattleya hybridizer often follow. Me, for my preference, I prefer more like spidery plant, and I still love Cattleya trianae, the shape of this flower. However, I don't like particularly much rounded shape Cattleya hybrids. Obviously, there can be exceptions, but me, I love either wild species or spidery flowers more. The color of Cattleya trianae is really varies. Several are most of the times, yes, are pink, shell pink, or like a lavender. Like this one is a very light lavender pink with this awesome, rich, intense magenta lip and this yellow throat that becomes white near the column. The column is this area at the center of the flower where the pollen and I'm trying to focus, where the pollen it's not that easy, hopefully now. Yes, you can see here at the center of the flower, just when the yellow basically is going really inside, there is this spherical area. Well, this is actually a more cylindrical in real life, and it is the area where the female and male gametes are, so the pollinia and the receptacle of the orchid to get the pollen. I have a video where I show you the anatomy of the Cattleya flower and how to pollinate. It's like a mock pollination because I used flowers that were already cut out from the plant, but gives you an idea about the anatomy of the Cattleya flower. I'll post it in the description. In addition to obviously this color, the beauty of these pinks, they come really in quite a wide range of pastels, lavender and pink, purple, sometimes there are also really rich purple, like Sangre de Toro. I think there is a trianae called Sangre de Toro, really nice. But also there are some varieties with white petals and sepals, except the lip, the semi-alba, if this one is still colored, or also completely white flowers, just with a little bit of yellow in the lip. And these are the alba varieties. Cattleya trianae really comes with a huge array of colors. In addition to the beautiful, well, you can see the shape of the flower. I would point out also the fact that the petals are also very nicely ruffled, not to talk about the incredible lip. And I would say that the intensity of the color and the like the refinedness, the beauty of the frilled lips is really what makes this Cattleya standing out in the whole genus of Cattleya, and I would say in the orchid family. About the fragrance, you know, I love fragrant flowers. Cattleya trianae is supposed to be fragrant, but in my opinion, maybe because this is the first blooming under my care, or maybe because the conditions I have this Cattleya are not really optimal. This Cattleya is really almost non-fragrant. The scent is extremely light. I would compare it to like a heliotrope fragrance. Kind of reminds me Cattleya maxima, the fragrance, but is even lighter than Cattleya maxima. You really need to put the nose close to the lip to smell it. Definitely, at the moment, I can't really recommend this orchid for fragrance. The shape and the color are amazing, but if you're really looking for a fragrant orchid, go elsewhere, or maybe try to go to a greenhouse where there are several Cattleya trianae well established. Maybe they are a lot more fragrant than mine, but really, I can't really recommend this plant for fragrance. About the species, this is a species, as I said, comes from Colombia. It lives about 1,500 to 2,000 meters above sea level, and it is, as I said, doesn't really come from very hot areas in Colombia. Obviously, still tender plants don't put it outside in winter, but I would say this is a typical Cattleya requiring ideally intermediate intermediate temperature in the greenhouse, so not a warm grower if you have the luck to have a greenhouse. Otherwise, in the window, on a windowsill, is still doing well. Actually, I'm keeping this Cattleya at the first floor of my house. I have third floor. Ground floor, there is the coldest. Second floor, there is quite warm in between, not too cold but not too hot, and then I have the top part, the top floor, where I have the orchids that they need most warmer temperature, because obviously the warm air tends to go at the upper level of the house, and this one I've been keeping it at the first floor, so intermediate conditions, and this Cattleya, I would say that is really enjoying a lot this intermediate condition, as again gets direct sun only in the morning because it's an east facing window, and likes this position also a lot because I never found any burns on the leaves, unlike when I had it in the southern facing windowsill. About the cultivation of this Cattleya, about the potting mix, as most Cattleyas will do perfectly fine in bark, indeed I received this plant in bark, in a bark pot. However, I decided to convert it in semi-hydro, and in semi-hydro it's doing very well. You can see the roots. I'm sorry because even if I use arrow water, so reverse osmosis, so very low in lime, there is still some kind of deposit near the water level, so I usually keep the semi-hydro condition about 1/5 to 1/4 of the overall size of the pot, as you can see. Remember, when you convert to semi-hydro to do it when the plant is actually growing new roots, because all the roots in semi-hydro will die and only the new roots will actually adapt to the new condition, because usually Cattleyas are kept dry in between watering, so semi-hydroponics is a kind of big change for the orchids. So I think I have told you everything. I will put on the description links to the Chadwick description, or Mr. Chadwick description of this orchid. I would say is one of the most beautiful description of these orchids. You can also see a lot of different colors, among which this species comes. The range of color, the full range, not the full range, but obviously many color varieties of this beautiful species. And of course, I hope that you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, it would be great if you can please give a thumbs up, and if you like this video and the other videos on my channel, it would be great if you can please subscribe. It is completely free for you, but in this way you help me to support my channel, promoting it on the YouTube platform. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.